What is your number one complaint about the UFC right now? Well, mine, it's the matchmaking. I understand I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but we have seen an insane amount of terrible matchmaking, not only over the past few years, but it's gotten extremely bad within the past few months. Now, why do I make this video? Because we just saw one of the worst matches of all time, that being MVP versus Sam Patterson. Now, going into this, we knew MVP was going to do the same thing that he always does. He jumps around on the back foot, jumps in for one strike a minute, lands one thing, and then never really hurts his opponent unless they're cans. He has yet to get a finish in the UFC, I believe. Yet to do any cool highlights like he did in Bellator. He knocked over Cannonier and Kevin Holland and danced on them, but he literally put no damage on Holland like that. I take that back. He did drop him, but the inability to finish a fight on him is just very annoying. But it's not even from him. We can get into that another day, but it's the matchmaking itself. Sam Patterson was an up-and-coming guy. He had a rough start in the UFC, but then he came back and was getting finishes over guys. He had a really good standing TKO over, I think, what was it, Danny Barlow? Maybe not. But this fight was absolutely abysmal, and a matchmaker should have seen it coming because MVP has done this before. He's done this in pretty much all of his UFC fights. He's had very underwhelming strike output and not a lot of anything else. No takedowns, no knockdowns, no nothing. MVP in round one alone threw 5 of 12 strikes, or landed 5 of 12 strikes. Sorry, he threw 12. Next round, he threw 24. Next round, he threw 19. That's very little, and that's because Sam Patterson at times was kind of having to walk him down just to find him for exchanges. But Sam Patterson was also on the back foot because MVP was doing all this dynamic movement. But if you're able to do all this movement to get your opponent pedaling around the cage, you should be able to cut them off and find, a big shot to get your respect and put damage on him. But he didn't. And this is abhorrent matchmaking by the UFC because Sam Patterson was a fun guy. Michael Venom Page was a proven guy to not be fun. I don't care if you say you can't miss anything when you watch him fight. Like, he's super exciting. Anything can happen in a second. That was pre-UFC. Now, dude, he doesn't land anything good on opponents who are half decent. Jared Cannonier's old. Kevin Holland doesn't care about becoming a UFC champion, apparently, a.k.a. he's trash, according to him. But we've still seen them make terrible matchups like this. MVP is a detriment to the company, yet they keep putting him up against people that don't make sense. And going further into that, with this whole Movzar situation, we're seeing big accounts like ACD MMA even give a platform to idea this question of Gene Silva or Movzar Evloev for the title shot. The guy who's 20-0 undefeated and won, just got a win over the number one other. They just fought for a number one contender matchup, and he beat the guy 2 years ago that Gene just beat after getting violently slimed out by Diego Lopez. Why is this even a question? Because the UFC is turning into entertainment over deserving, and that is exactly what the opposite of martial arts is about. Now, I understand the UFC is a business at the end of the day, but they have been able to make an insane profit and not pay the fighters off of making the best fighting the best. We've seen this time and time again. You saw Volk versus Islam. While that's a very good super fight, it is the best fighting the best. And in this situation, Movzar should be next to fight Volk. And I don't see how this is even an argument. I don't see how this is even a question. I understand people coping over the Movzar win. They don't like his style. I don't either. But you have to give credit where credit's due. Gene Silva should not get to jump the line just because he got a close decision win over Allen where he clip farms. That's all he does every fight is he clip farms. He does the same thing as Marab to where you think he's winning by so much more than he is. And we saw him get slimed out against Diego Lopez. The dude has work to do. Take Yair Rodriguez matchup. But why is this even being considered as matchmaking? And if you saw in my video recently, Dana White talking about when we announce it, you'll know if it's true when Gene Silva was referring to get a contract signed for the Alexander Volkanovski fight. It's ridiculous, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dana came out and said Diego Lopez, Alexander Volkanovski 3. And that kind of leads me into the next fight that really upset me was, what was the point of making Alexander Volkanovski Diego Lopez 3. I understand the situation between Movzar and Lerone not really either doing enough or just not doing the final stamp on it to cement their title shot, and Diego Lopez getting a win over a surging guy like Gene Silva, who was undefeated at the time, nasty knockout artist, the guy emotes, which the UFC loves, even though I find it very annoying after a while. But they made this matchup regardless, and the outcome was the exact same. Volk 49-46 to him, maybe 50-45 on a scorecard, just dominated him over the 5 rounds. Masterclass, absolute greatness from Volk, and we expected it. Why do they keep making these matchups that we expect? You know with MVP Sam Patterson that MVP is going to jump around on the back foot, land 2 strikes a minute, and not do anything special. And Sam is an up-and-coming guy. He can't deal with that. A lot of guys can't deal with MVP's style unless you're an Ian Gary who's just that good at wrestling, and then MVP has nothing for you. It's terrible matchmaking, and then they do Diego Lopez, Volk 2, when you arguably could have just given Movzar the shot. It would have been like not the best, but let's just give him the shot, get this over with. But no, now we had to wait. We had to do this pointless rematch that now has kind of put Diego Lopez on ice within the featherweight division. Diego Lopez was talking about moving up because he doesn't even know if he can beat Volk. And how much longer does Volk have? We don't know, but I think Diego beats every guy in that division that's not Volk. Even Mavzar, I think he beats him in a rematch. I think he puts damage on him, stops the wrestling. But this fight made no sense at all, and now it's kind of stalled out Diego Lopez's career. What can he do now? He's beat Gene Silva, the guy that they want him to take on next. He's beat, he has a very close fight with Alexander Volkanovski, who's now fighting Mavzar Evloev. I could see a Diego Lopez versus Lerone Murphy, maybe Diego Lopez versus Aljamain Sterling. That would be a really hype matchup. There are matchups for him at featherweight, but for him to get another title shot at featherweight, it's few and far between. He's going to need to string together 3 big wins, maybe 4 if the situation is like this again. And they keep doing stuff like this. They keep putting bad matchups against bad matchups, and I understand there's so many for me to reference in this video. There's so many I could talk about, from the super fight matchups to the can of can matchups. They're doing a lot of things that don't make sense. A lot of times they're just doing like matchups where one guy's going to get train ran on them, aka every Ateba Gutierrez fight. The guy has slimed out 4, I think, tubbies. Like, in what world is Jose Medina? You can KO Jose Medina. My grandma did it last week. But then his next fight is against, I can't remember who, but one of the most weak guys in the UFC. They keep feeding these killers cans to build them up, and then when they face someone actually tough, they lose. And then you've killed all this hype, you've burned all these matchups, you've wasted all of these potential things because you just wanted to build a guy. And I don't know why they do that at the top of the division either. I understand you're trying to build Diego. You gave him a second shot, but now you've effectively destroyed him from within. He can't get another shot without doing an insane amount of work in the division. And he said it himself, he doesn't know if he can do that. He might go up to 55. He is a bigger guy for the division, but a guy shouldn't have to be thinking like that just because you, the UFC, gave him terrible matchup opportunities. I understand if anybody slaps a title shot on the table after you've already had one, you're going to say yes. It's a payday. It's a chance at legacy. It's everything you want. It's how you keep your name in the mix. But it doesn't make sense. And getting further into that, the Gaethje Pimblett fight. Look, obviously, I think Arman kind of deserved to miss out on this opportunity after all of his behavior. I don't care how good of a fighter you can be. If Osama bin Laden was like a former 10-time champion, and then, or if he had been, crazy reference, but like if a horrible person was good at fighting, you give him a shot. Now, I'm not saying Arman's as bad as, someone of that caliber, but I'm saying Arman has done things that have definitely deserved him not to get a title shot. The dude has essentially been Osama bin Laden to the UFC. He has pulled out of one of their biggest matchups, one of Islam's toughest matchups at UFC 311, on a day's notice, trying to impress Nina Drama, who he's now with every day while he has a wife back home, and so does Nina. Absolute putrid filth there, by the way. And then he takes on Dan Hooker. Headbutts him at the weigh-in, breaks his nose. Dan Hooker could have been like, fuck you, I'm going to go hang out with my boyfriend. You just broke my nose. And then the UFC would have been like, Arman, you have now canceled 2 big matchups for us. We're getting rid of you. And clearly Arman draws numbers, but you have to admit he was doing too much to deserve this shot. But on the flip side of this argument, there's also what the fuck is giving Paddy Pimblett a shot going to do? You could just say, all right, Arman, look, you have been horrible. You have been a very, very bad example of the UFC. You've been very erratic, and now he's getting better. He's staying at brawls at press conferences. He's doing the right things. I still think he needs to take another matchup, but he said that he talked to Hunter, and he's got one coming up, so I'm excited to hear about that. But Pimblett did not deserve this opportunity. Maybe we should have chucked it to Arman despite his bad behavior in hopes that he would get better. Now, I understand that this matchup kind of showed Arman, hey, you can't fuck around on us. So it's 2 sides of a coin here. But this is also terrible matchmaking because the situation allowed it to be. But Paddy Pimblett in no way deserved the title shot. The guy got a title shot off of a win over, I believe, Michael Chandler, who was on like a 3-fight losing streak. I don't know why Tapology is making me watch an ad that I can't skip. I'm going to crash out, but I know it off memory. Paddy Pimblett was coming off of a win over Michael Chandler, who, understand, Michael Chandler's a guy that is not that good, but they'll throw him to the wolves. The guy made it very close with Oliveira in the 5th round. Obviously, he was back at the headshots, but he had Oliveira in trouble. He had King Green, or Bobby Green, Bartholomew Green. No one deserves to be called King. You're weird. And Tony Ferguson, the corpse of Tony Ferguson, took him to a decision. Arguably lost the Jared Gordon fight. So obviously, Paddy's like, he's middle of the road. He didn't deserve the shot at all, but the UFC said, look, we don't really like Arman. We really want to push this Paddy hype train. Give him the shot. I understand giving Justin Gaethje the shot. The guy's been there time and time and again. He stepped up for the Max Holloway thing. Obviously, I don't know if I agree with him getting a title shot after getting a decision win over in a rematch. Why was the rematch against Fiziev a thing? That's another spin-off matchup. Why was the rematch against Fiziev a thing? Fiziev had a very close fight with Gaethje where he completely lost, but he made it close. He obviously took a lot more damage towards the end of the fight. But in no way, shape, or form should there have been a rematch in this one. And that rematch, after after Justin got slept out cold by Max at UFC 300, got him this opportunity. But he's a company man. He has over $1 million in performance bonuses, I think, or that might be Oliveira, but he still has a lot of performance bonuses. He's a company guy. You can give him the shot. But Paddy, I think it was the Armand situation that kind of led this to be how it was. But Paddy, in any other universe, in any other moment in UFC history, would never have gotten this shot. Obviously, the UFC wanted to catapult that Paddy the Baddy. They want to break into, the British market, even though they kind of have it. And they took a resume like this. Not the undefeated, the defeated Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, who still kind of got it, but Michael Chandler, who's just a punching bag for everyone, and is about to be for Huffy, and we're gonna get into that card, because while this matchup was bad, UFC Freedom 250 is not good either. I understand these are legendary matchups: Ilya versus Gaethje, Pereira versus Gane, great stuff here. O'Malley versus Zahabi? Where is Corey Sandhagen? I understand O'Malley said he never got offered Corey Sandhagen, but why didn't the UFC think to do that? This is piss poor matchmaking. Number 2 versus number 6. Amian Zahabi might be pretty well rounded and good, but I don't think he'll ever be champ. He's not entertaining at all. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And there was kind of a bad blood matchup between Corey Sandhagen and Sean O'Malley. Obviously, Sean O'Malley, beat Cheeto Vera. So did Corey Sandhagen. O'Malley wasn't looking for title aspirations after his loss to Merab, I think. And Corey Sandhagen obviously had that loss to Merab as well. Why don't they fight out? They're two tall, lanky guys who've been wanting each other for years, especially Sandhagen. He's been pushing for that matchup. He even talked about this fight, how piss poor it was. Sandhagen should have gotten this matchup, and I don't know what opportunity gave Amian Zahabi this one. Even here, Bo Nickel, I understand it's Bo Nickel. He's a name. They want to break into the wrestling market. Put him on the main card. I don't care. They should have put him against Colby Covington. Who? Dukas. Kyle Dukas they put him up against. Kyle Dawkins, who was literally cut from the UFC, came back, got a KO win or two. I think he got one over GM3. He might have subbed him, but then he got a KO over one of Michel Pereira. And now he's fighting on the main card of UFC Freedom 250. And this is a decent matchup. Diego Lopez, Steve Garcia is a rising guy. He's got great power. UFC 250, the dude was friends with Kirk. It makes sense, right? Sacrifice Chandler to the Wolves. Great. Love it. Tired of Chandler getting undeserved number one contender fights essentially against guys like Oliveira and whatnot. But the matchups on here that don't make sense are Amian Zahabi and Kyle Dawkins. Why is there a polar bear in Arlington, Texas? That's what I'm seeing here. Amian Zahabi should never share a title card with Sean O'Malley when they're matching up against each other. It makes no sense. I understand Zahabi is getting up there in the rankings. The dude's not a draw. There's no momentum behind him. There would have been way more momentum behind Corey Sandhagen and O'Malley because that has been a matchup we've been wanting to see. It's the two tall, rangy strikers of the division. And Corey's got the grappling edge. That would have made for a compelling matchup. Kyle Dawkins, I don't understand why Bo Nickel got this fight. This is a free one for him. If Dawkins fraud checks Nickel, cut Nickel. But Nickel should have gone against Colby Covington. Colby Covington has been the guy who's been sorry to be vivid. But he has been glazing the U.S. Trump. He's been riding Trump, saying, best president, number one guy, thanks for all the first responders, and then he never fights. This was the card you were supposed to be on. He's talking about now how he deserved to be on that card. What happened in negotiations where the UFC goes, okay, the MAGA character for the past half to close to a decade hasn't fought in over, I think, 2 years at this point, hasn't won a fight since Masvidal. And now we're watching him not be on the UFC White House card, not do the right things, and it's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Makes no sense at all. Pathetic matchmaking. Let me know if you have any other examples of really bad matchmaking. None of this makes sense in any way. This is a historical thing that's been going on, and it's going to continue to get worse, I fear. And we can't let this happen. We need to start holding the UFC accountable for this. I don't know what to do, but we have to do something. This is absolutely abhorrent matchmaking. We were told for months on end that this card was going to be the greatest card ever, better than UFC 300. It's 3 times the budget, a $60 million card, and I cannot afford a house. Can we please get some good fights on it? No, you're getting Sean O'Malley, Amian Zahabi, and Bo Nickel, Kyle Dawkins. Thanks. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm probably going to go back and edit that one thing I said about Colby Covington initially because holy monetization. See ya.